All right, if you're a fan of the wonderfully weird YouTube series Banalotopia, you probably watched episode 30 and thought, wait a minute, haven't I seen this before? That feeling of déjà vu? Yeah, that wasn't an accident. You are definitely not imagining things.
So, no, you're not going crazy. The madness really is repeating itself. But that just brings up a massive question, right? What in the world is going on here? I mean, why would a show, after 29 episodes of just pure, surreal chaos, suddenly hit the rewind button? Well, the answer is just as bonkers as the show itself.
And you don't even have to dig for the answer. The show just tells you. Straight up, episode 30 isn't just kinda like episode 1, it literally calls itself a remake. There's no hidden meaning, no secret code for us to crack. They just put it right out there. But let me tell you, this is absolutely not your standard Hollywood reboot.
And this is where it gets really good. I love the show's complete lack of pretension about it all. They call it a repetition of the old shit. How amazing is that? It's so self-aware, and it perfectly sets the tone for the whole meta-commentary they're diving into. See, this isn't about making a better version of the original. Oh no, it's about looking at it all over again through a new, weirder lens.
Okay, so the big question is, how deep does this rabbit hole go? Are we just talking about the same basic plot points, or is this a full-on line-for-line remake? Let's get into it. Let's put these two episodes side by side and see what's really going on. Because the evidence, it's undeniable.
All right, let's start at the beginning, the broken down Jeep. This is what kicks everything off in both episodes. But here's the thing, you gotta pay attention to the tiny little shift in the language. In episode 1, it's just a statement of fact. A red light comes on up front. Simple. But in episode 30, it becomes this kind of world-weary question, didn't a red light always come on with these Jeeps? See that? It's the exact same event, but now it's loaded with memory, with the show's own history.
And check this out, the Deep Sleep Institute. This is a perfect example of how the show builds on its own absolutely bizarre lore. In the first episode, it's just a throwaway line, right? With deep sleep now, yes. But flash forward to episode 30, and suddenly it's the MMC Deep Sleep Institute. It's become a proper noun, an official-sounding place. The nonsense is actually evolving. It's getting its own weird but consistent logic.
But then, you get moments like this. Some things don't change one little bit. This little poem of resignation is copied word for word. It's a perfect echo. They just lifted the dialogue straight out of the first episode and dropped it into the new one. And that tells you something really important. This isn't just about remixing old ideas. Sometimes it's a very deliberate, very intentional copy and paste job. That's a choice.
And here we go again, the totally random, out-of-nowhere news report that we should all be eating insects. It's exactly the same. Now you might think, oh, they just got lazy. But no way. This is one of the pillars of the Banalotopia universe. Think of these repeated lines like a weird chorus in a song. They keep coming back, and they ground all the chaos in something, well, familiar, even if that familiar thing is super, super weird.
So you see what's happening? It's a remake for sure, but it's not just a copy. It's more like an evolution. It's the show having a conversation with its younger self. And to really get what they're talking about, you have to understand the gap. The time that's passed between these two episodes, because that changes everything.
We're talking about a gap of roughly 3 years. And in that time, we got 28 other episodes packed with, well, escalating madness. That context, all that history is absolutely crucial. It's the reason why the remake feels so completely different, even when it's literally using the exact same script.
And believe me, the remake piles on so much new stuff. For starters, the characters have swapped their roles. Then there's this hilarious super meta debate about whether they should reuse an old flight number just for continuity. But the biggest change? The world itself. Chickens, which were nowhere in episode 1, are now running politics. And, yep, you heard me right, the President of the United States is now a chicken. This goes way beyond a simple callback. It's showing us just how far off the deep end this world has gone.
So that brings us to this idea of continuity. Now, in any normal show, continuity is about making sure things make sense, right? Keeping the story straight. But in Banalotopia, continuity is the exact opposite. It means grabbing the most random, nonsensical things like that flight number, QR5ZZ74, and reusing them over and over. They're building a world that is consistently inconsistent. It's a total paradox, and that's where all the best humor comes from.
But okay,
Even with all these changes, the chicken president and all, some things in this universe are just sacred. They don't change. There are these foundational pillars of absurdity that have been there from the very beginning, and they are the bedrock for both the original episode and this remake.
And what are they? Well, you know them. That endless, frustrating quest to get a hold of Dr. Krauss. The constant suggestion that we should be eating insects. That totally random shout-out to Ben and Canny from the daycare. The desperate search for the right lotto numbers. And, of course, the ever-present, wonderfully expressive German term Affenscheisse. These are the anchors. These are the constants in the absolute storm of Banalotopia's chaos. Which really brings us right back to where we started. Why? Why do all of this? Why go to the trouble of remaking an episode, copying some lines perfectly, tweaking others, and then just dumping 3 years of accumulated insanity on top of it all? What is the actual point of repeating something so absurd?
Well, when you break it down, this whole loop actually has a pretty clear purpose. See, by repeating itself, Banalotopia is taking all these random, chaotic moments and turning them into its own internal mythology. It's a huge reward for the longtime viewers, right? It turns old lines into these legendary inside jokes. What could have just been a bunch of random sketches becomes this weird, looping universe where the past is always popping up. And at its core, it's just exploring how funny repetition itself can be.
There's this beautiful, poetic line at the very end of episode 30. It talks about how this universe looks for logic elsewhere, in the soft light, where form dances. And I think that just nails it. It's suggesting that, yeah, there's a kind of strict logic here, the logic of repetition, but there's also this other part where things are just allowed to be chaotic and free. And that's Banalotopia in a nutshell, isn't it? It's where the rigid logic of a remake crashes right into the beautiful, dancing chaos of a chicken becoming president.
So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway? Honestly, this whole self-remake thing is just a fascinating experiment. It's a commentary on itself, it's a reward for the fans, and it's a deep dive into its own completely strange history. Which leaves us with just one last question. A question the show seems to be asking itself all the time. Is this brilliant, high-concept meta-narrative art, or is it all, at the end of the day, just apeshit? And I think the real beauty of Banalotopia is that the answer is, yeah, it's probably both.